Hi, Sarah. Ignore my weirdly dirty shirt. Typical of me. Typical of Sarah. Damn, I've grown up quite a lot, haven't I? Fucking hell. 30 now. I think a lot more in concrete. Well, actually, the opposite of concrete. A lot in fluid and liquid terms. Uncertain terms. But I've gained this sort of comfortability with uncertainty. I'm aware of my perspectival limitations. I use big words. I read Hegel. I read Deleuze. I read Kant. Somewhat, not really. I read Lacan. I read Zizek. I read Eastern philosophy. I'm trying to get a grasp of my hold on reality. Has been my entire purpose, my entire striving in life. An ontological objectivity before I could name it that. And even naming it that flattens the reality of what it is and all of its dimensions and inexplicability. And I know that it's asymptotic and that I would never reach it completely. But nonetheless, it is something that I strive towards because... Not because it makes me feel safe anymore. I mean, maybe it does in a sense, but not because I think that I'm striving for any objective certainty or objective truth about who I am. Am I a good or bad person? Am I on the right path? What is life? What are other people thinking? More so along the lines of, I'm in this reality. I'm observing the life of Sarah. I am Sarah, consciously embodied. And as such, I want to understand what this is, what this life is, who I am, what this reality is. And I feel like the more that I observe it on different multifractal levels, and the more I draw some connections to it, even if these connections are arbitrary and completely in my head and fabricated and only relative, or only true or consistent or coherent relative to myself, nonetheless, I'm co-constituting it, and it co-constitutes me in that intra-action, as Barad would say. And so I feel like I'm moving towards something. I'm engaging in a Hegelian dialectic in a sense, except instead of stark negation, it's differentiation, and it's aligning not only in negation, or what is not me, but also what seems to be similar to me, or align with me, or coherent with me, and what is not. And even in those coherences, it's infinitely different, as with the nature of the passage of time, and Bergson's theory of time, time as becoming, time as a flow, rather than a stark entity moment. A flow of becoming, and a co-constituency of being, and being and becoming as one, object and subject as one, ultimately, albeit through different perspectival lenses, different perspectives of reality, different standpoints, different perspectives of reality, if that makes any sense. Me as an observer self, me as an observer created as Sarah, constituted by countless observations and interactions on all levels, from quantum, maybe even below, who knows, to cosmic and everything in between and everything before and after that I can't conceptualize or flatten into words or language. The language that I use is just symbols and signifiers of something. The unconscious, of which I am constantly in dance with, trying to give touch to and sensation to and form to, and then bring into the light of consciousness to be able to synthesize and understand and grow from. That's who I've become at 30. And it's interesting to look back and see that I've always been grappling with these things intuitively, but lacked the language or sophistication or stability to put it into somewhat coherent, consistent terms. And I still can't fully. I still battle with language. I battle with sculpting my thoughts into language. Or anything really. Externally, I see my thoughts inside of my head. And I don't really see them, but I do see them in my mind's eye, so to speak. But they're not just words, and they're not just images. They're a mixture of all sorts of things. Images, slideshows of GIFs almost, depictions in visual, dimensional, feeling, emotion, all of that which brews this intuition of which I can grasp sometimes and make something coherent out of it and something innovative and new that allows me to grow as a human being. I strive to be a good person, and by good, I mean anything that I don't consider bad. And by bad, I mean a lot of things. I mean egotistic, I mean overly certain, I mean ontologically just invalid, self-centered, self with a capital S centered, ego-driven, E with a capital E driven, ignorant, reactive, final, any finality or super conclusion that I know something 100%, all the presuppositions that I have unexamined. I try to avoid all of that. And I will never be perfect, and I'll never be completely 100% objective, and I'll never ever reach objective or absolute truth or the absolute self that is Sarah, but god damn it, I'm trying to get towards it. And I think the more that I strive towards it, the better I can be, and the better to other people I can be, because I better understand myself, and in the process I can better empathize with others, because I know how hard it is. And I've seen all of the flaws that my mind can make, and I can see it in other people sometimes, or at least imagine it to be in other people, and I project it onto others. But I think that sometimes it might hit somewhat of a mark, and it might give me insight into something that if I didn't examine myself, I might otherwise not understand or know. And I want to use that to be a good person. I want to use that to be closer to the ultimate self that I've set out for myself, which is closer to, but asymptotic obviously, to absolute truth, an absolute spirit, as Hegel would say, but embracing differentiation and difference, as Deleuze would say, and refusing to flatten or trying to acknowledge when I'm flattening, which is at all times. Every time I put something into language or words, it is automatically flattening it and killing what the true essence of it is. But I mean, there's no other way that a human being can communicate, as far as I know. And I embrace those limits, because it's within those limits that it creates the unique human experience that is Sarah. And it allows me to empathize with other humans, and allows me to categorize this imaginary world that I've constructed for myself, and the world ain't too bad. And I want to get it to a closer real, but I also want to enjoy the ride at the same time. So that's how you've grown up, Sarah. 30 years old, 2026? What the fuck year is it? 2026. Working in a municipality, doing policy work, doing great in it at King Township. Finally getting accepted into a master's program in politics, political science. reading Hegel, reading Deleuze, reading Marcuse, reading Marx, actually understanding what Marx is, kind of, not really, but slightly, Lacan. And this is all thanks to the safety that a happy relationship gave me with Sho. And I love him to death, and I love the child inside of him. I love who he is, I love who he's becoming, and I see my pattern, my multifractal essence and the hive of Sarah Richardson, the hive that is the observations and interactions that comprise me and that I embody and that repeat over time, align really well with his, and it creates something that for me feels like one of the wonders of the world. So yeah, that's how I've been, and I hope future Sarah is doing just as well. I love you, and I always will. Thank you.